Hey, what's up and hello? This is the Chris Nicole bringing you my views on life, love, and the world of entertainment through my eyes. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on what time you are watching this live. Hello, crew. Hope all is well. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in. So, normally I do pre recorded, funny, snarky videos of Yellowjackets, but there was a lot going on these last two episodes, and while I was doing my pre-recorded video for episode 9, episode 10 came on, and after watching episode 10, I said, you know the hell what? Let's just do a live and let's talk about it, okay? So make sure you hit the like button on the way in. I know a lot of you guys like the humor that I bring on my pre-recorded, but we are about to talk about this because I'm going to be honest. When I first watched episode 9, I was getting disappointed. I said, they may lose me. They may lose me because at this point, who am I rooting for? Every story, you have to have someone that you're rooting for. And it was very, very hard at this point for me to see who am I rooting for because all the ones I had hope for are unalived. So, but after episode 10, I have a feeling where they're going. So at this point, we're going to definitely talk about it. So first things first, let's talk about episode 9. Hey, Danielle. Hey, Veronica. Hey, T Pretty. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in. So episode 9, how the story ends. Okay, let's start off there. So first things first. Val, I always say Val, child. Y'all already know I butcher names. Van is on a ventilator, okay? And we see young Van, and she comes in to visit her older self, asking if she remembers the Goonies, because it's a classic hero's journey. And Van is like, of course I know the damn Goonies. Like, what is your point? And she says, you need to go and get the treasure, and says X marks the spot. And then adult Van wakes up and sees Ty, who looks so sad, but Van gets up and says, Goonies never say D, also known as unalive, and she's on a mission. Psycho Shauna, Hannibal Lecter herself, is still telling Melissa to take a bite of her own freaking flesh, okay? Or she will tell her family who she is. Melissa puts it in her mouth, and Shauna, like a psycho bitch, smiles like she's enjoying every bit of it. And Melissa spits it out all over Shauna and runs for her life and gets in her car and drives off. But unfortunately, as we know from the previous episode, she's on empty when it comes to her gas. So I don't even understand why, though, she ran away. That's my house. So if you come in my house and you acting a fool, where is the closest cast iron skillet so I can knock you upside your head? But she runs for it, okay? Back in the Wicked Woods, Natalie says, you don't tell anyone what to do, Shauna. And Demon Shauna, Psycho Shauna says, well, I just did, and they're going to listen. Crocodile Dundee is like, okay, well, you know what? I'm out. Y'all can sit up there and have your little manicures, have your little hair salon, whatever y'all gonna do. And then Shauna, like a crazy heifer, sits up there and points the pow at him and says, you're not going anywhere. Van goes to Ty and says, you meant what you said, that eventually we're going to get out of here, right? And Ty says, those scientists lost their shit when they saw Coach Head on a platter. What's the point of going back if it's going to ruin our lives? In other words, they're going to sit up there and tell, and then we're going to be locked up in prison for the rest of our lives. Van is like, you do remember what winter was like. We ate a freaking kid, and that card game will eventually run out. And Ty says, good thing you've been practicing with the cards. So I guess she's doing her 3-card Monty game, and she knows how to kind of manipulate the cards. In the present, Ty, Van, and Misty are driving, and they see Melissa on the side of the road. She ran out of gas, and Melissa looks like she's seen a ghost, literally, and it's like, what the hell? And it's like, Melissa. And Melissa's like, oh, shit. All of these crazy bitches are here. And she tries to run for it, and then literally Ty sits up there, backs up the car, traps her, and Van sees a railroad sign with the X on it, and she remembers what the younger Val said in her vision, that X marks the spot, thinking it's the sign for her to go on her mission. Melissa says Shauna has lost her mind and she ate my arm. And they're like, how have you been since we thought you were unalive? All right. And so Melissa's like, Shauna is the freaking problem. And when are y'all gonna realize she's the problem? Like, when are you gonna open up your eyes? Back in the Wicked Woods, Travis is preparing a trap to take someone out, okay? He has had enough and he is freaking over it. And he's just like, you know what? I need to do something. At that moment, though, Shauna, who of course has gotten very cocky, very arrogant, and feels like she could scare every damn body, she realizes that the other girls, the ones who are actually sane, are planning something. And she tries to get Misty to see if she can get some intel on what's going on. Misty. Child, Misty is not popular. They don't even like Misty. So she thought she was going to be able to get some intel. And of course, we already know that's going to be an epic fail. In the present, Psycho Shauna. Okay, look how crazy this bitch look on this damn picture. Psycho Shauna with red rum all over her face is still at Melissa's house. Van, Misty, and Ty walk in with Melissa, and Shauna's like, I may have made things a little bit worse. Really? Everything you touch, Shauna, goes to hell. And she's like, okay, so what are we going to tie her up with? And Ty is like, hold the hell up. Like, let's try to figure out what the hell is going on here. And so at this point, Misty's like, no, everybody hold the hell up, because she's the one who unalived Lottie. And your DNA was under Lottie's fingernails, and you were in the city. And so at that point, Van and Ty is like, what? And so Shauna's like, it wasn't me. I was in the city getting a cat for Jeff's karma. So Ty, of course, takes Shauna's side and says, we need to fix what's going on currently right now. Like all the blood and food on the walls and, shit like that, okay? Hey, hello. Hey, boo. Oh gosh. Okay, you're I can't even say your name, even if I wanted to, because of what's there. But I'm saying, hey, back at you. Hey, back at you. I don't like Shauna either, but we gonna talk about it. So yeah, so at that point, they're like, Misty is like, nope, you know what? Shauna did all of this. She needs to clean it up herself. I'm not about to be her maid or her puppet. Y'all handle this. Misty is starting to get some balls, and I'm really loving this for Misty. But I have a feeling she's going to be the next one to go if she's not careful. I hope not, because she's pretty much the only sane one or somewhat sane one left that we have left. Meanwhile, Callie is preparing her herb, okay? Okay, yes, the name. It's okay though. Everybody is welcome. I just can't put it on the screen. It's all right. Miss Callie is preparing her herb, and Jeff walks in and is like, Callie Sadecki, are you about to smoke weed every day? Are you about to smoke? And she's like, Mom steals my herb. Like, what are you talking about? And Jeff is like, sure, okay, let's light it up, because you don't even know how to roll it up properly, even if you wanted to. Meanwhile, Misty gets dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and Walter, like her Romeo, picks her up by helicopter. Misty tried to get the girls to expose their plan back in the Wicked Woods, and it doesn't work. But meanwhile, Van leaves with a backpack on, and Misty sees that Van is trying to fix the portable phone that was broke. In the present, back at Melissa's house, they tie her up trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. All right. But in the meantime of them trying to figure it out, they sit her down by the fireplace, and Melissa ends up pulling a chain on the fireplace. All right. Back in the Wicked Woods, Melissa and Hannah create a bond and start talking to each other like normal human beings. And Psycho Shauna gets jealous and crazy, of course, and doesn't like that. Melissa chases her down, and she finds out that Shauna, I guess she finally realizes maybe that Shauna's not well, or she always knew she wasn't well, but she's trying to convince Shauna it's nothing. It's no big deal. They were just having conversation. And Shauna's like, I didn't realize you were this effing stupid, and insults Melissa. So at that point, Melissa's feelings are hurt and she walks out, and Shauna is like, Melissa, come back. No one gave a shit about you. And Melissa turns around and says, why can't you just be a nice person? And I'm like, girl, because she's not a nice person. She's not even human. What are you talking about? And Shauna says, you're nothing to Melissa. And I'm like, Shauna, that's how you really feel about yourself. You're a freaking horrible human being. And I have a feeling the way this it that they keep talking about works, the more it possesses them, it represents how sick they are in their freaking brain. Shauna, of course, is an evil bitch. She's always been an evil bitch. She's never been loyal. So that's why she was possessed more than anyone, because she's the craziest one out of all of them. So at that point, she sits up there and says, you're nothing to Melissa. And Melissa looks at all the other girls and says, you guys are right. She's effing nuts. And then Shauna decides to pull the pow pow on Melissa and say it again. Say it again, bitch. And Melissa says, I effing dare you. Melissa got some balls on her. She was like, I wish you would. And next thing you know, Shauna pow pows and grazed Melissa's jacket. And she didn't think that she was going to pow pow. And Melissa ends up peeing on herself. And Shauna gets a kick out of it, smirks, and walks back to her tent. Van tries to cover Melissa up because Melissa pissed on herself. And I'm thinking, like, y'all done unalive people. Y'all done ate people. And you're embarrassed by a little piss. Okay. Okay. Y'all done also shitted in a bucket. But you worried about you pissing on yourself. And you being embarrassed by that. All right. All right. Okay, we can go with it. We can go with it. In the meantime, Travis is about to off Loco Lottie, okay? He's upset and he's trying to put her in the trap. And he's like, you know what? Pretty much, you done pissed me off. Why can't you just be a normal freaking human being? And Lottie is like, I feel your brother. He's here. He's with us. You can feel him. And in that moment, Travis backs off because the winds start going. The winds start going. And at that point, he feels Javi around him, right? And I'm just like, okay. And then Travis at that point looks at her like, I need to leave this voodoo bitch alone because I am not understanding what's going on here. But I'm going to have to sit up there and just leave her alone and, keep this trap here for someone else, okay? Is Lottie a clairvoyant? I can't even call her a clairvoyant, Danielle. She's something else. I don't know. I can't even say she's a clairvoyant. She's something else. But in the meantime, Mari takes Hannah far into the woods, and Natalie gives her a pokey to cut herself loose and pretty much says, cut yourself loose and Dundee, cut him loose so we could all make a run for it. That was the plan that the girls had. Callie and her father are getting ha, ha. And all of a sudden she becomes his therapist and becomes more of the adult than anyone else. And at that point, Jeff pretty much says, it's lonely being married to your mother. And I'm like, it's not just lonely. I'm sure it's scary too. And for the life of me, I am trying to figure out why Jeff married Shauna. I don't think he was ever in love with Shauna. Based on what we saw the first season, for those who've been Yellowjacket fans from the beginning like me, he was just screwing her. And he was screwing her behind Jackie's back. He didn't even love her. She was forcing Jeff to say, I love you, so she can have some type of emotion or feel like someone actually cared about her. So I hope they really explore why Jeff even married her in the first place. So we'll have to explore that hopefully in the other season, or hopefully a fourth season. Have they actually renewed it, you guys? Let me know. But anyways, moving on. So at that point, Melissa goes to the other girls and says, F Shauna, I want in. And at that point, when I was watching episode 9, I was like, I wouldn't trust her ass, because how do we know that that whole exchange that they had between each other wasn't a way for her to get information to report back to Shauna? Later on, we realized that wasn't the case. Meanwhile, it's night. Everybody is asleep, or so Hannah and Dundee think everyone is asleep. And Dundee is telling Hannah, cut him loose, let's go. And Hannah is scared, but she randomly asks Dundee whose name was on his sack. And he's like, I got it from the thrift store. What the hell does it matter? Just cut me loose. But Shauna, evil ass, the Wicked Woods told her they were up to something and catches them while they're trying to break free. And she says, who gave you the pokey? And she says, Dundee. Hannah says Dundee gave her the pokey. And he said, you fucking... Sorry, you guys. Y'all already know I get into it. You effing bitch. But he actually said the C word, if you know what I mean. And so at that point, next thing you know, Hannah turns around and pokes him in the damn head. Pokes him. And at that point, I said, what the hell are they doing? But at that point, I also said she's doing that to try to save herself, because she knows Psycho Shauna is crazy enough to take both of them out. So she did that to try to save herself. Child, that ain't about to save you, but okay. So with that being said, she ends up saying, I want to join you. I want to be a part of this. And I was like, okay. And it was at a point where it was like even Shauna's crazy ass was caught off guard. And if you can sit up there and have Psycho Shauna caught off guard, you know you cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And said really? Really? I can't even say, yo, I'm going to call you MPSB. Oh, wow. It probably won't get renewed. And the way that they ended 10, and we're going to talk about that, it may get renewed, but I guess it depends on their viewership, because they lost a lot of us with the first couple of episodes. I don't know, but oh, wow. We'll have to talk about that at the end. So this is why I wanted to do the live today, because I wanted people to come in and we can really talk about this. So I'm glad you're here. Everyone else is here. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in. So Misty goes and talks to Walter, okay? And Walter is making her a chocolate martini. I've never had a chocolate martini before. If y'all have, let me know, because it looked good as hell. I may have to try a chocolate martini. But at that point, Misty is playing Walter, of course. And she's like, do you really feel that Shauna offed Loco Lottie? And he was like, well, yeah, I mean, the DNA is under her fingernails. And Misty is like, well, yeah, but at the same time, I called the Humane Society and verified her cat story. And as crazy as it sounds, it's actually true. And so at that point, Misty was just trying to get Lottie's phone. She was like, yeah, did you clone her phone? And so Walter is thinking, I have a friend. See, interesting enough, Walter is pretty much what Misty is to these damn Yellowjacket girls, okay? Walter is trying to have a friend in Misty, and Misty is playing him like the girls play Misty. So at that point, he's like, yeah, oh, yeah, I did. And she was like, I need some shavings, some chocolate shavings on my martini. He was like, right away. So he gives her the phone. He goes in and gets the chocolate shavings. Misty is literally looking in Lottie's phone. Let me go back to that, y'all. Misty is looking into Lottie's phone and she flips out like she sees something that catches her off guard. And the next thing you know, when Walter comes out, okay, Misty is gone. She done played his ass. And Walter looks so hurt. I don't know if Walter is about to turn into a straight up psycho because the way that Misty is playing him, or they're going to end up being together. But honestly, I'm just like, I don't know at this point. But I feel so bad because it's like you are playing him like these girls played you for the past 50 damn years. Like, seriously. But moving on. In the woods, the girls tell Natalie what happened back at the torture camp, and they are not leaving. And Natalie cries, and she is like losing her mind. But then she ends up hearing footsteps in the distance and sees Misty running, and Misty goes back to the black box that she destroyed and finds the transponder, and they can use that for the phone that Van has. Natalie sees her and says, "Oh my God, you have a effing transponder." And I'm like, child, wait till you see the way she damaged that black box just for the sake of feeling good about herself. But moving on. So Van walks back into Melissa's house because she went outside to get some fresh air. Okay. So she comes back in and sees that everyone is passed out. Everyone is passed out. Melissa closed the fireplace flue. Okay. So Van at that point drags Ty out first. And then, she gives her, I'm saying, like the little thing to breathe in, because of course Van had that for her own stuff, her own health issues. And then she ends up dragging Shauna out. And I'm like, why? Why do y'all keep saving this psycho bitch? Why? But she ends up saving the day for Shauna. I wish she would have kept her ass in there. But then Melissa's the last one. Now, Van takes that moment to grab the pokey. Okay, and she's thinking at that moment that she about to sacrifice Melissa, hoping that this gonna save her. She ends up untying Melissa. And she says, "Look, I have cancer, and there may be a chance that I can live if I off you right freaking now." And Melissa's like, "You don't believe that. Those sacrifices weren't real." And Melissa's like, "Okay, Melissa's like, if you gonna do it, you gonna do it, fine. If you feel like, I'll be your sacrifice or whatever." She starts crying. She said, "Just go ahead and do it." But then, having the heart that she has, she was like, "I can't do it. Why can't I be that way?" And Melissa's like, "You don't want to be that way." She ends up taking the pokey out of Van's freaking hands and ends up poking Van in the chest and tells Van, "But I do. Isn't this what it wants?" Okay. And so at that point, it's interesting because, of course, Melissa was trying to convince us all of that stuff wasn't real, but she clearly believes in it too, because that's exactly what she said to Van. So then at that point, Van lays out. Okay. And we already know what happened. She's about to go to the upper room. All right. And so at that point, we end up seeing it. She's on the floor. Ty and Shauna walk back in. And I must say, I kind of got tugged on my heartstrings when Ty saw her there and literally was like, "Babe." And she was like, "Van," and she started screaming and losing her shit. She knew at that point Van was freaking gone. And Van, at that point, of course, we know when one of the survivors ends up going to the upper room, ends up being unalive, they're on the plane on their final journey. So at that point, Van is on the plane with her younger self, and she says, "What the F? I'm unalive? Like, what the hell? What the hell is going on here?" And so young Van is like, "This is what you were supposed to do." She said, "You said I was gonna be the freaking hero." And she says, "You are. You got the love of our life back. That is like the perfect ending in this situation." And Van was like, but I'm unalive. I'm unalive at this point. Like, great. Like, what the hell was the point of this?" And so little Van says, Big Van says, "Why did you send me in there if you knew I was going to be unalive?" And so at that point, little Van says, "If this isn't the end," Big Van says, "If this isn't the end, then what happens?" And little Van says, "What's the fun in that? What's the fun in that if I tell you what the ending is?" But we clearly know that Van is gone. Van is gone. So what does that mean for Ty? That's what I was thinking at the end of episode 9. What does that mean for Ty if Van is now gone forever. Is Ty inner demon going to gain full control over her? Because at this point, she has no reason to be good anymore. She was only good for the sake of Van. She couldn't even be good for the sake of her son and her freaking wife. So now that Van is gone, what does this mean? But with that being said, going into episode 10. So this is episode 10, you guys, full circle. All right, full circle. So let's get into it and talk about this. So from the top, in the Wicked Woods, some are asleep while this demonic looking figure is there. All right. And next we see Natalie being thrown towards Shauna and Hannah as if she's some type of prisoner. And Natalie's trying to figure out what kind of Jim Jones Kool-Aid hell has Hannah actually taken. Like, she's like, what the hell, Hannah? What the hell is Hannah doing? Like, what is this shit? So at that point, we also get a clip of seeing Natalie telling Misty this is all her fault and F you, F you, F you, Misty. And then she ends up punching the hell out of Misty. But Misty only cares about if Natalie's gonna tell everyone what she did. Okay. What in the world? I'm sorry, you guys. I'm looking at my dog. I don't know what the hell my dog is doing right now. Anywho, move it on. So yeah, so then at that point, Psycho Shauna literally, well, actually, Loco Lottie has a freaking dream about this freaking demonic figure and she screams at it. And next we see her in the morgue looking at her older Lottie self. And young Lottie is like, do you remember what we promised? It's time to meet her. And we hear a baby crying. All right. And at first I said, why do we hear a freaking baby crying? I'm confused by that because, of course, naturally, we know that the baby that passed in the woods was a boy. All right. It wasn't a girl, but we find out later on. But I was confused about that at first. I'm sure some of you guys were too. So, with that being said, Psycho Shauna ends up driving Ty. Ty is still distraught from losing Van. Shauna tries to talk to her, and Ty's like, bitch, I don't want to hear it. Because we clearly know it's Shauna's fault. Shauna and her crazy ass ruins everything. Ty takes Van's body out of the van and tells Psycho Shauna don't touch her. Then things get really, really weird again, like they did in season 2. Okay. Ty digs a grave and rolls Van in it. And she says that she's going to remember all of her and she's going to remember everything. And then she takes a pokey out. Okay. She takes a pokey out. And I thought she was going to off herself. But no. No. Instead, she opened Van up. She opens up her chest. Okay. And the next thing you know, we see Van's heart. And she eats it. Yeah. She eats it. I'm gonna just show it real quick. There we go. Bye. Moving on. I don't understand the purpose of this. Can someone help me understand why they have this obsession of eating hearts on this show? What is that supposed to represent? That you now think like that person? Feel like that person? What is the point of this disgusting shit? Help me understand for those who are like deep divers in freaking Yellowjackets, because I don't understand. I'm just disgusted. Okay. So moving on. At that point, Callie is at school vaping. All right. And Misty runs up on her and says, did you put something in my drink? And says, oh, that's a various devious thing to do, but did you end up getting the answers that night that you wanted from Lottie before you unalived her? And so we find out it was Callie's DNA under Lottie's nails, okay? And I'm not going to say I told y'all so, but for those who've been listening to my reviews, I told you so. I said in several reviews that Callie is just like her mother, if not crazier than her mother. Did I or did I not say that? Did I or did I not say that? She has her mother in her, and she literally is crazier and more devious and more cunning than her mother. Very at this point. At this point, I said, okay, here it is. Definitely going down this road that Callie gonna be the next damn Psycho Shauna. So, with that being said, at that point, Callie admits it. And Misty tells her she will feel a lot better if she tells someone and gets it off her chest. And I'm thinking, like, what about that singing hummingbird that you pushed off the cliff when y'all was in the Wicked Woods? Did you tell someone about that? Did you tell someone you offed her? Did you? Did you? Because I would like to know, since you claim she need to get it off her chest, talk about all the things you need to get off your chest, all right? But with that being said, Callie says when she took the tape, Lottie ended up taking the tape from Callie and she went to go find Lottie. Lottie decided to take Callie to the basement, and in the basement, we see there are candles burning. Lottie says, Callie, you're not here for the tape. You're here to understand your mother. And I'm like, hell, we all trying to understand Psycho Shauna. And so Callie asks Lottie, does her mother not love her? Okay. And so at that point, Callie says she tells me she loves me, but I don't feel it. When I look into her eyes, they're just so cold. And Lottie says, you know that feeling. It's it. Okay. And at that point, she was like, you're feeling it right now. And pretty much tells her she's the demon seed. She is the wicked child. She is Rosemary's baby. All right. And Lottie says, it brought you to me, our baby. Child, she's saying she is the Wicked Woods baby because they lost their baby in the woods. So now she is the Wicked Woods baby. So I think at this point, Lottie knew she was about to go, which is why she had all of that set up. She knew something was going to happen to her. She knew something was going to happen to her, and she was prepared for it. So at that point, what she tells Callie is she says, she was like, she's never going to be able to love you. Like she can't love you. And she said that she's jealous of you because you're just like her, but more. Which I said that. I said that. And so because she doesn't want to hear that, Callie doesn't want to hear it, she ends up becoming her mother and pushes Lottie down the stairs and offs her. Okay. And so at that point, Lottie knew it was a done deal. She knew. So at that point, she ends up running down and she's like, oh my gosh, Lottie. And so she ends up going back home and she tells her father what she did. And her father is like, whew, I have a crazy wife and now I have a crazy child, but now it's time for me to save my child. And he tells her, Callie, was an accident. You were scared. You're not crazy like your mom. And he was like, it took your mom 25 years to tell me 10% of the truth, if that much. All right. So at that point, he was just like, we got to get the hell up out of here. Back in the Wicked Woods, Misty walks up to Van asking her if the water is warm yet, but it's cold on if she was able to fix the phone. We hear Akila freaking scream, and we see that all of her animals are gone and saying that it took them out, unfortunately. And I'm thinking, like, child, y'all was gonna eat them anyways. It's wintertime, so y'all was gonna sacrifice them anyways. But Natalie says, well, maybe it wants us to leave. And Loco Lottie says, no, we got too arrogant and we have to prove our faithfulness. No, you and Shauna got too arrogant. But she says we have to offer it red rum and sacrifice. And it has to be something we cherish. We have to have another hunt. Natalie says, F this, I'm out. But Shauna's like, Natalie. And that stops Natalie because they're all scared of this one heifer for whatever reason. Van remembers that, of course, she knows how to manipulate the cards. And Ty goes to Van and says, make sure Hannah gets the Queen of Hearts. You know what I'm saying? I Okay, hold on. I know you excited, but let me tell the story, brother. Let me tell the story. We ain't even got there yet. Let me tell the story. So literally at that point, um, she sits up there and hold on, where was I? I'm sorry. Yeah. So at that point, Natalie says maybe it wants us, and then Natalie says, I'm out, but Shauna's like, yeah, you gonna stay right here, bitch. So then at that point, Ty says, you need to make sure that Hannah gets the Queen of Hearts. And so at that point, Van is like, you want me to select who's gonna go. And Ty's like, do you even trust this girl? We don't even know her. And she was like, and it definitely can't be us. So we got to make sure it's not one of us. So do what you need to do. So Shauna ends up going back home in the present and finds that Jeff and Callie have moved out and turned off their phones. And I said, yes, finally people are deciding to move away from freaking Shauna. Like, yes, yes, yes. So then at that point, back in the Wicked Woods, it's snowing again. They're back in the winter and they draw the cards. But Shauna sees that something is up with Van and she sees the way that she's moving the cards. Misty doesn't get the Queen of Hearts. And if y'all didn't notice, Shauna looked like she was disappointed that Misty didn't get the Queen of Hearts. But when she realizes big time that something is up, this Satan Spawns decides to change her position in the circle and says that she trusts whatever it wills. And at that point, she ends up pulling the card. But then Mari's next in line, and Mari gets the Queen of Hearts. And Shauna evil ass knew because the Wicked Woods told her exorcist ass, Linda Blair ass. And so Shauna evil ass is happy to see that Mari gets the card, okay? And she's been happy and she's been wanting to off her since she sat up there and chomped on her like a pork chop the first episode. Shauna laughs and Mari sits up there and says, you deserve everything that's coming to you, while Lottie counts. Whew. First of all, I am really hoping if they do renew and have a fourth season, I'm going to predict what they're probably going to do just based off of this episode alone and episode 9. But Travis tries to stop Shauna and it's like, none of this is real, psycho Shauna. And then he was like, I have Javi's thoughts, but my favorite are Jackie's thoughts. The jealousy, the betrayal, and of course, Shauna at that point is ready to off Travis because can't nobody tell Shauna the truth about how she's a trifling ass person and a trifling ass friend. But with that being said, back in the present, Misty is chaining her. Well, she's cleaning her birdie's cage and Psycho Shauna. Yeah, but the problem is, Teeth, everybody doesn't watch it. Some people just listen to my reviews and they don't watch the show. So that's why I'm saying that. So they end up hunting and doing everything they typically do to sit up there and sacrifice. So at that point, back in the present, Misty is cleaning the bird cage and Psycho Shauna comes to visit her asking, what did you do to my family? It's never Shauna's fault. Misty says, you had the information and you knew Lottie gave her the necklace and she offed Lottie. And so at that point, I was like, but I thought she said the necklace didn't represent what it was. So I'm trying to figure out, was Loco Lottie just trying to psych Shauna out because she knew Callie automatically was Rosemary's baby? Because she kept telling her it's not what you thought it represented, but clearly it was because she ended up offing Lottie. But with that being said, Shauna is like, wait, she what? She offed Lottie? And Misty was like, and I told her to talk to her dad. I guess she did, which is why they left your crazy ass. And Shauna is like, is she in jail right now? And she was like, yeah, no, but look, I need for you to go before I get a restraining order on you. And so at that point, I knew right then and there, I said, okay, if this goes to another season, it's going to be the rest of the girls who are alive versus Shauna. I have a feeling that's where they're going with this. And if they are, that will keep me going for the next season. That will keep me going because I can't stand Psycho Shauna. I do not like her as a character. She has to go. Okay. And so at that point, back in the freaking Wicked Woods, Shauna and Ty are looking for Maury. Okay. And Ty wants to split up, but Shauna's like, something is weird and we need to stay close. Meanwhile, Mari takes off her clothes in the damn snow and her shoes in the snow, I guess trying to deter them, thinking that she was like right behind some type of little stump or whatever. Ty says, this may not be Mari's tracks. And Shauna looks at Ty and is like, why would you say that? And then she looks to see, I guess, if that's Ty or her inner demon. And Shauna says, you want her to get away. I know you effed with the draw. And Shauna is like, Ty, you better tell me what the F you did. And Ty says, bitch, if you know what's good for you, you will back the F up. And Ty looks at her. And Shauna looks at her and realizes, yeah, this bitch is crazier than me. She's crazier than me. Okay? And at that point, I said, oh. So this is someone that Shauna is actually scared of because she backed up and said, let's continue the hunt. Oh, this is going to be good if we have another season. It could literally be Ty and Shauna are the last ones left. And that's going to be good because Shauna knew not to try Ty. Exactly. When she said, you better back the F up, Shauna was like, ooh, I don't want to try it with this one. All the other ones are scared of me, but this one isn't. Meanwhile, Natalie, while they're hunting, gets the phone. Okay. And Hannah is following her. And at that point, Hannah sits up there and says that she only offed Cody Dundee so Shauna wouldn't off her and him. And at that point, she sits up there and she tells Natalie that she just wants to get out of there. And I guess Natalie at that point realizes that she's being genuine. She's just trying to survive. So at that point, one of the girls, and I don't even know her damn name, she one of the damn teammates. One of the girls tells Ty that, you know what I'm saying, Van is hurt and to come with her. But Shauna's like, she's lying. It's a trick. She wants us to split up. But Ty goes anyways. Akilah goes in the cave. And at first I was like, was she trying to get another gas high? And we find out that she purposely offed her animals so they can go hunt. So then that way, while they hunt, Natalie can set up her plan to do what she needs to do to try to get rescued. That was the whole plan from the beginning. And Shauna, I love that part because they was like, we gonna have to outsmart this psycho bitch. All right. So with that being said, sorry, you guys. As you can hear. Okay, enough. Anyways, these badass kids in my neighborhood be running past the window and one of my dogs wants to act up. This is why I don't go live for other reasons as well. But we gonna talk about this damn episode. So with that being said, Ty sees that Van isn't hurt, and a teammate was like, Mari is my freaking friend, and I'm trying to give her a fighting chance. Baby, she didn't have no chance in hell. Meanwhile, the best part of this episode, someone ends up choking the shit out of Shauna. Oh, it was such a beautiful moment. And I couldn't do anything but enjoy that moment. It's Melissa. And I was really hoping she was going to end her, but we know that wasn't going to happen because we see adult freaking Shauna. And I was like, damn, but it was that one moment where I was like, oh my gosh, she's about to go. She's about to go. But Melissa's a coward and ends up backing up. And then Shauna had the nerve to sit up there and be arrogant, talking about something. I knew you were going to be boring. You should have took that stick and knocked her upside her head. Would you stop? Now, all the other times I be on here, and now all of a sudden he want to bark and go crazy. Ugh. Moving on. We almost done, y'all. So, with that being said, child, we see Mari. She hurts herself. And she ends up running into Lottie. Now, she ends up hitting. It's interesting enough, though. It's interesting that she ends up hitting something and it ends up like cutting her freaking foot. Almost kind of like the same situation when she kind of fell into the trap with Coach Ben. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, she ends up bumping into Lottie. All right. And unfortunately, she ends up falling into the trap that was meant for Lottie. Unfortunately. Meanwhile, Ty and Misty, they end up talking at a restaurant. And she is finally getting tired of Shauna, thank God. And she blames Shauna for Van, thank God, because she needed to blame her for Van. She blames Shauna for Natalie and says that this crazy bitch thrived off of what she did in the woods. And if we keep letting it slide, she will be the last one standing. And I don't want that to happen. Do you? And Misty says, hell no. Let's go, bitch. So meanwhile, Walter is looking on, seeing Misty and Ty talk. Okay. And I'm really trying to figure out where he's going to be in next season. But this moment right here, I said it's going to be them versus her because they finally realized that Psycho Shauna is the freaking problem. So back in the Wicked Woods, Van cries about Mari and Shauna's evil ass says, take her out. We're going to have a feast and we're going to prepare the feast. And they drag Mari's body, by the way, with her perfectly waxed armpits. How in the hell have you been in the woods for that long and you have perfectly waxed armpits? Like, make it very realistic. These girls ain't shaving. I was like, really? Really? She looks very clean, very perfect for someone who has been in the freaking woods all this time. But with that being said, Van was ready to go in on Psycho Shauna. Oh my gosh. If you don't shut up. Oh my gosh. I am so sorry, you guys. He don't ever do this. So with that being said, so it ain't no naturally smooth. They literally just, they forget that they've been out in the Wicked Woods all this time. They should be hairy as hell and funky as hell at this point. But anyways, moving on. Oh, okay. Thank you, Veronica. And I'm sure I'm probably going to get some troll, some hater saying, oh my gosh, could you do this in another room? Kiss my ass and just enjoy the freaking conversation. Okay. So with that being said, they drag her. And Shauna tells Natalie to serve Mari up. And I'm like, no, bitch, you do it. Why she got to serve her up? She's a freaking bully. And she tells them to prepare Mari for that night and bring her hair like it's a token or a souvenir. Meanwhile, Psycho Shauna in the present gets a text from Jeff saying that we are safe, but we need space. And I hope they never come back. I hope she never sees them again. Shauna ends up finding a note that Melissa had actually left her. It was under the fridge. She reads it, and mainly it says that you need to forgive yourself, you psycho. And she literally tears up the letter and she begins to cry. She begins to cry. And I said, Psycho Shauna has emotions? I was like, this is weird. Like, what's going on here? And then she starts to journal and says that they can't remember because deep down, they really enjoyed what they were doing out there. And I'm like, no, you were enjoying it. Don't put this on everyone else. And then she says it's time to start taking it back. So, in other words, she missed the warrior psycho queen that she thought she was. And now she wants to live that again because that's the only way she actually felt alive was when she was being a psycho crazy bitch to her full capacity. She always been a psycho crazy bitch, but now she's like, forget it. Let me just be who I am and unleash all of it. All right. So in other words, she gonna try to hunt the girls just like the girls is gonna try to hunt her. It's really gonna be the survival of the fittest. It's gonna be, you know what I'm saying, Survivor, like the reality show. Yeah, it's gonna be that. So with that, back in the freaking Wicked Woods, Shauna tries to confront Natalie about how she felt it was a setup when they were hunting. And because she said she, she was feeling something like this is weird. They're doing something and I can't put my finger on it. So literally what we think is Natalie, she has her head down. Okay. She has her head down and Shauna's like, are you not saying anything because you're guilty? So then she ends up ripping off the mask and it's Hannah. And it freaks Shauna out. And she's like, where is Natalie? And all of them practically were in on the plan, except for freaking Shauna. So Natalie, we see her walking up at the top of the mountain and she's calling for help, okay? And so she's at the top of the mountain and she sees that the transponder is working and she's like, hello, hello, come somebody help us, please come help us. And all of a sudden we hear a man say hello back and the man says, I can hear you, and the episode goes off. If they have a season 4, my predictions is gonna be the girls versus Shauna, Shauna versus the girls. I definitely feel that these Wicked Woods, the more insane they were, the more it took over them. Because when you really think about it, the main ones that it really possessed was Loco Lottie, of course, Psycho Shauna, and Ty. Ty was already seeing the man with no eyes with her grandmother. She already was having those type of visions and things like that even before they got to the Wicked Woods. We clearly know Shauna ain't never been wrapped too tight, as well as Loco Lottie. That's why, in my opinion, those 3, it took over them more because they're the ones who had issues before they even got to the woods in the first place, which makes me think that's the reason why the plane crashed. The reason why the plane crashed because it wanted them there in the first place. That's my prediction in the situation, which is why those 3 were the ones who said, we're not going anywhere. We're staying in the woods. So with that being said, I definitely feel like, though, there was a lot of things that were not hitting and were missing this season. But this last episode gives me a little hope. Yeah, I said Ty. You're talking to me, Veronica? I said Ty. I said Ty, Loco Lottie, and Psycho Shauna. They were the ones who literally had issues even before they got to the woods, which is why I think the plane crashed. No, Ty does count. Ty does count. Ty being a little girl and saying that she saw the man with no eyes and the man with no eyes continues to follow her in the woods has everything to do with why she has that inner demon possessing her. So when you think about it, the main 3 that constantly was in that weird demon psycho mode, they all showed them to a certain extent when they were younger and how they just weren't right. Even with Psycho Shauna, when we saw in the beginning, especially that first episode, that pilot, and how Psycho Shauna was literally screwing her best friend's man behind her back and how she was acting like she was very aloof and she wasn't there. We know something is wrong with her. We haven't really seen why and what's going on with her. I wish they would show us her parents. I want to see Shauna's background. I want to see Shauna's background and why she is the way that she is, which is why I said, where are their parents? We've only seen Natalie's parents. Where are their parents at? Because that may explain a lot of what's going on with these girls and why the Wicked Woods, chose them. So I'm curious to see how they're going to play it next season, but one of our fellow crew members in here said that her cousin works for the show and they may not get a 4th season. which is unfortunate. But at the same time, I'm sure that we had a lot of situation or a lot of people who have been fans from the beginning who kind of got lost in the sauce this season. There were definitely a lot of episodes where we was like, what the hell is going on? At least I'll speak for myself. But I was like, what in the hell is going on here? And what are they trying to do? And unfortunately, they may have lost people and they lost ratings, but we'll see. We'll see. This last episode kept hope alive for me because, like I said, at the end of this, I was rooting for someone. Now I'm rooting for Ty and I'm rooting for Misty to take Shauna out. I want her gone. Bottom line, she's not likable. She's evil. I'm not intrigued by her. I want her gone. So if they're going to have the hunt for her to take her evil ass out, I'm here for it. I am definitely here for it. Unfortunately, but see, and then another thing, you know what? What if they try to use Callie to take out her own mother? Y'all thought about that? Maybe Callie takes out her own mother. Because that's one thing that Lottie did say. You're just like her, worse than her. She may take out her own mother to end all of this. So, yeah. It may be that Callie takes out her own mother. You know what I mean? Because I can really see Shauna losing her shit times 1,000 more than what she's already done, where she literally will take out Jeff and then Callie is possibly on the hunt for her own mother. This can really have a lot of twists and turns. But as of right now, the only ones that we know are still alive as far as the team or the assistants, because Misty was never on a team, it's Misty, Ty, Shauna, and Melissa. That's it. At least from what we know, who are still alive. Shauna did say Jeff earned they were teens. That's if she got pregnant, she would raise the baby to be a well, it could be that her own child takes her out. You know what I'm saying? It could be that her own child takes her out because that's one thing that Lottie said. She's jealous of you. Because you're like her, you're actually better than her. You're actually worse than her. So, yeah, it's almost kind of like they're kind of letting us know that Callie may be the one to end this altogether. Because Callie still has a heart in her. Psycho Shauna doesn't. Because Callie had remorse about what she did to Lottie. Psycho Shauna don't have remorse for anything she's done. So that's where that's going to come in. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. How many episodes in one season are there? It's 10 episodes typically. 10 episodes. But yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. Typically, of course, this is much smoother and much quicker, but I wanted us to have a discussion after I did the review because I know some of you guys don't watch the show. You listen to my reviews to actually know what's going on with the show. And of course, apologies for my crazy dog who's sitting up there looking at these badass kids going back and forth. But what are your predictions for season 4? If there's gonna be a season 4? What are your predictions? I've told you guys my predictions in a situation, which if they get a 4th season, that may be the last season. So we may finally see Shauna get taken out. We may see Shauna finally taken out. And I will definitely love to watch that. I did not watch Handmaid's Tale. No, I did not. And I tried to, but I couldn't. Stick the dogs on the kids. We won't tell. Child, he a small dog who think he a Rockwilder. He just barking up a storm. I think the kids was doing it on purpose because they knew they was getting a kick out of him barking. But yeah, you guys don't ever hear him, but all of a sudden he wanted to bark tonight. But yeah, you guys, I hate the fact that though they lost us in a lot of episodes. But this episode was interesting because it lets you, it's like, okay, she got a hold of someone, and they did tell us in the beginning, the first season, that Natalie is the one who saved the day and got them out of there. And we see this scene now. So I'm curious to know, They're going to be rescued. So what is it going to look like after they get back to Jersey? You know what I'm saying? What is it going to look like? Um, they have 6 seasons. Why? And they don't want to renew this. Come on. Yeah, I don't know. It could. Here's the thing, even if they were guaranteed a certain amount of seasons, if the viewership is low, this is still a business. They're going to cut it. They're going to cut it. They have to be able to make money off of it because it costs them so much to actually make the show. So even if they had automatically renewal, if they're not getting the ratings, they will cut it. So the little one, yes, the little ones are always feisty. All that bass and he little, yeah, for real. You thought he was bigger, huh? No. He ain't even 20 pounds. He ain't even 20 pounds, child. They can literally do a season of just them getting rescued and lead up to the current events of the present. They could, but they're going to have to just keep it tighter. There was a lot of things where I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, what is going on? And I think a lot of people were lost, which is why I was just trying to make it as entertaining as possible. But they were losing me. And I've been a fan since the beginning. So, but now episode 9 and 10, it kind of got me back in where I'm like, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. So I hope we can get another season. Sounds like a rock wilder. I don't know if I want to see Lottie from her cult. I don't know. Like, I would like to see Travis. I would like to see Natalie. Who else? I would like to see if there's another teammate that actually survives. I would like to see if Akila survived. Akila had a lot going on this season. I would like to see if she actually survives. It could be that Ty and Misty round up the rest of the girls who are still alive to all go after Shauna and Akila is still around. Maybe that'll happen. After they return home as a way to tie up loose ends to keep their secrets. Possibly. Who knows that they still could have been on the hunt, but on this show where life's so funny, I'm gonna watch it. Yeah, I typically like to do the pre-recorded because the chat can be distracting. Now I see why everybody likes to do pre-recorded because you can just kind of like focus. So again, but I wanted to really talk to everyone to see exactly what they think the predictions will be for next season. For those who actually watch it, for those who just enjoyed my reviews, by all means, I'm glad you guys followed me and enjoyed my reviews for Yellowjackets. I appreciate you. Make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe. But for those who actually watched it, I definitely wanted to see where they thought it was going to go or where they think it's going to go next season if we get a next season. You know what I'm saying? So we'll have to see. We'll have to see, and we'll have to see if it's gonna be renewed. As a matter of fact, before we go, let me look this up and see. Let's see. Yellowjackets 4th season. Up as of April 11th, Yellowjackets has not been renewed for a 4th season by Showtime. Co-showrunners Ashley Lyle and Bart Nickerson and Jonathan Lisco previously said they originally planned for 5 seasons. So they have not renewed it yet, you guys. They haven't. So we may not get it. But we'll have to see. I feel like all of the good shows is losing their edge or they're taking them off. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I really think A Hunt for Shauna, which I'm happy in return, maybe HBO or somewhere. Hannah should make her appearance season 4 if it's renewed. She did. Well, we saw her. She didn't actually. She had like an actual part where she was talking, but we actually saw her taking the kids and leaving. So we did see her, but I don't know at this point if Melissa will return back to her home after what happened. Like after what happened, that house is gonna be the way that it is. I feel like Shauna destroyed Melissa's life just in that one instance. How can you go back home after all of that and explain what happened? There's red rum all over the place, there's food all over the place. Like, is she really gonna be able to get that cleaned up before they come back home? So I feel like Melissa's on a run at this point. which is going to give her another reason to really want to hunt Shauna down, because Shauna destroyed her life like she did in the damn Wicked Woods. So I don't feel like Melissa would even return home at this point to protect her wife and the kids. So, but we'll have to see if we have another season. But at this point, I feel like Ty is, all of that inner demon is going to come out. There's literally no reason at this point for her to even have a good part of her. Like she said, the love of her life is gone. So what else does she have to live for? And she hates Shauna at this point. This was the main girl who had Shauna's back. You know what I'm saying? So the main one who has Shauna's back. So now that she's like, F her, she's the reason why the love of my life is gone, the reason why Natalie is gone, all of this is because of her. Ooh, that's going to be a nice little showdown. Who y'all got money on? I got money on Ty because I can't stand Shauna. I got money on Ty. No, I did not. I have not looked. And as far as Raising Kanan, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Yellowjackets, but I'll eventually get to that. But yeah, so we'll have to see, you guys. We'll have to see. But this is the end of Yellowjackets. This was my live review of the last 2 episodes. If I had to give an overall rating of season 3, I'm gonna have to give it a C, a solid C. There was definitely some episodes that had me saying, what the F is going on? And then there were some episodes that were pretty good. So I would have to give it a solid C. They really need to go back to the basics, though, of what season 1 was. Season 1 was absolutely excellent. For those who just listened to my reviews and they haven't seen season 1, I promise you, go back to season 1 and you will see why we fell in love with this show. For those who have been Yellowjacket fans from the beginning, season 1 was amazing. It was amazing, especially that pilot episode. Absolutely amazing. So yeah, I definitely would highly recommend it. But I will definitely look into some other shows that I can review, even if we have to go back to some shows that were already aired and you guys want me to do reviews on them. I'll do that also. But yeah, season 1 was like a B+ that got me. Oh, okay, yeah, Veronica. Okay, so yeah, I didn't know you watched it from the beginning, but yeah, season 1 was a great season. And then from my understanding, the creators of the show, they ended up, for whatever reason, taking them off the second season. And I don't know why, but it kind of lost its way second season. And then it kind of lost its way pretty much third season until like mid-season. Then that's when we had, okay, well, things were picking up. But I'm a binge this weekend. Have you been reviewing all of them? Yes, I have. If you go and you put in my search and you put in Yellowjackets, I didn't review season 1 because I didn't have a channel yet, but I did review season 2. And of course, I reviewed this season. So yeah, I have Yellowjackets season 2 and season 3 on here. So definitely check them out. But I appreciate you guys on this journey and this ride with me. I appreciate you guys listening and me having my moments of pausing and talking about random things and hearing the dog bark. I appreciate y'all riding with me. And my P, are you still here? I can't say your username. My P, if you're still here, please come back. I don't know if you subscribe or you only just come here for the reviews, but please come back. And then also let me know if you get an update on if it's renewed or not. If you got the inside scoop before I find out, by all means, please let me know. Okay, you still here. If you find out if it's renewed or not, contact me. I don't know if you have Instagram, but I'm on Instagram, the same name on Instagram. Contact me via DM or you can email me. It is the Chris Nicole, the way it's spelled on my channel at gmail.com. So yeah, definitely let me know because I'm curious now to see if they actually are going to review it. But yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna do the same because the mess of season 2 made it become more clear. Thanks, girl. Gonna watch Love After Lockup. Yeah, we'll definitely review that this weekend also. But yeah, definitely, you guys. I appreciate you guys for listening. I accidentally split with my cousin, so he's avoiding me. So we'll see. Well, try to get the scoop from your cousin. And, even though he avoiding you right now, try to get the scoop so you can fill me in to let me know if we need to prepare for another season. Because it took us so long to get this season because of the strikes. Y'all remember I was talking about the writer strike and the actor strike. So we finally got this season. So hopefully they'll at least give us a fourth season so we can kind of wrap this up. I think even people who may have been turned off with the way that this show was going, I think we all want to see them at least get rescued and see what happens when they're their younger selves after they get rescued. I think we all kind of want to see that. And then, of course, see if these girls are going to go after Shauna. So, with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on my next video. Toodles.